This was the most intense roller coaster of a 100 days video I've made so far. I'll be jumping into the world of pirates known as Sea of Thieves, as a fresh pirate legend who's literally just spent all of his gold.
Like, if you're a broke boy, just say so.
I'll be attempting to use what little I know about the game to see how much I can accomplish and how much gold I can make in 100 days of game time. This of course won't be easy, as between the AI NPCs like skeletons or sea monsters to the PvP players who've played anywhere from hundreds to thousands of hours on this game, and of course my open crew teammates, all of these things combined would make it a very difficult task for me to come out on top of. I mean, not joking, we could literally make zero gold if I sucked enough, or we could get rich and become a true legend amongst pirates. Some of my main goals other than getting filthy rich were to reach level 100 with Order of Souls so I could obtain my distinction with them. Along with that, I wanted to play a lot of Athena's Fortune as I had just unlocked that emissary and I wanted to level it up to unlock the other voyages. Then lastly, the other goal that I was really trying to hit was to do a successful Reaper's run along with doing my first Fort of a Dam during the video. I'd done plenty of skeleton forts up to this point, just never a Fort of a Dam, so this will be a good one. So get ready for some insane stuff, like me pulling up to noobs at full speed, all the way to stealing a skeleton fort from another crew by sneaking an explosive barrel onto their boat. This is my complete adventure from day 1 to 100 of playing Sea of Thieves. Now the game's wiki states each day is exactly 24 minutes, so times that by 100 and I'll be playing for 2400 minutes or 40 hours. And as I said, even though I'm a pirate legend starting this video, I still barely knew much about the game. I had just learned the ropes of it. So with all that out of the way, and now that you know what to expect, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to keep more adventures like this alive, and let's start with our first voyage on day 1. I started off by using the sloop I had bought in my previous video and began with introductions. Turns out this was somewhat of a newer player I got teamed up with, but they were eager to do anything, so I suggested we go on an Athena's Fortune voyage. He agreed to hit it with me, so I decided to use my remaining 20,000 gold that I left, so that way I could buy a storage crate and then some extra supplies before we left. Then once we were both ready, I queued a Legend of a Veil quest on the table. Now once undocking and getting to the open sea, we would dive to our voyage location, which starts us heading towards the first island a part of a quest. For Legend of a Veil, it's in 3 parts. We need to find 3 different veil pieces and put them in a veil mass, which is now beside our wheel. Now I'll do my best to not over-explain things in this video, as I know many players know these things, but for those who don't know or don't play the game, at any time another player can just decide to sail their ship to me and start a fight. If they end up sinking us, they get whatever loot and supplies we had on board, and we'll have to restart our voyage in a new ship. But you combine that with the fact that you're trying to complete each quest or each voyage as fast as possible and you're just waiting for other players to find you, it can be pretty nerve-wracking. On top of that, Legend of a Veil summons this huge weed tornado across the sea, which every player can see, so if they want to go get that smoke, all we gotta do is wait in the area or wait until the storm clears. If they're really good, they'll usually wait till the storm clears, because then they'll be like, okay, if we're done the event, let's go sink them and steal the loot. But that's just how this game works, and it makes stuff like clearing a simple fortress or digging up a few treasure chests much more thrilling and rewarding to complete. The more you do these, the better you usually become, getting faster and faster at completion times, but for me, this was the opposite when doing Legend of a Veil. I don't know what it was with this voyage, but I hate Legend of a Veil. It's the worst. It's like one of only 3 things you can do as an Athena other than the standard raids. It's awful. This was my 2nd or 3rd time doing the voyage, so I wasn't really quite sure what we needed to do exactly. I mean, we could get along with most of it, and I'd just search up the odd thing when I needed to, but I swear, as the video goes on and I hit more of these, it never gets better. We'd spend most of day 1 on the first island as we found Belle, who gives us a lantern to go light up these ghost statues. Once we light up all the statues, we have to battle a bunch of phantoms, and then a phantom captain, who's fairly difficult, but not bad with having food to heal. Compared to most bosses in the game, especially like skeleton captains, he was really easy. So we had now completed this part correctly, but next I decided to look at the quest book and place the veil stone on the captain's table instead of the mask. I don't know why I did this. I just figured that we'd go on and try to find the guy named Suds, who'd likely be at an outpost, but he wasn't there. It only took me about 10 minutes to realize we needed to put the veil piece into the mast to start the next part of a quest. But once we did, we were back on track. Suds was close by, and then off day 2, we'd find the island which the treasure was buried at. We retrieved it, and it was another ancient chest which had another veil stone in it. We can now begin to sail towards the storm and start the final part of a voyage. On day 3, we would arrive at the storm and find 3 different fortresses and some phantom ships. The goal was to drive by each fortress, shooting them with cannons until they were destroyed, and when destroying the 3rd fortress, it would unveil the legend of the veil. See what I did there? Well, I think I did something. I think the game actually did that, but anyways, now we had to circle the big fortress and destroy the different parts of it. We did really well on this. Running this mission on a sloop isn't too bad, as the game scales using different ships that you're going with, so Legend of the Veil can usually be soloed on a sloop, but my teammate was doing fine, listening to my instructions, following along, hitting repairs in buckets. We were able to destroy all the pieces of a fort while maintaining our ship and keeping it from sinking. I know it sounds simple, but it's a very big feat to accomplish, especially in a Legend of the Veil. We get some pretty decent loot from it. A lot of it is pretty standard loot, but there's a chest of legends in there, along with enough to make us a little bit over 50,000. My teammate and I would load the treasure into harpoon range, and then it got it all into the sloop before we'd end off day 3 and go into day 4, where we'd be aiming to arrive at an outpost to sell our goods. Along the way, I kept using my spyglass to keep an eye out for any ships, and I ended up spotting a shipwreck for us to check out. A lot of players like to skip these, but I like going to them. Usually they have a little bit of extra loot, and I do get it. I mean, a lot of the times I strike out with them. They're like literally be like a crate of rare tea and a couple skulls down there, like nothing good. But if you're starting a run, I find they're really good if you have a supply crate. You can go down there and get supplies like food and cannons and stock up right before your run starts, along with also usually at least getting you your first level in an emissary. Now, while we were sailing to the outpost, I swear I didn't see another ship. At least from the side that we were sailing from, it looked pretty clear, but I'm guessing that the ship must have spawned as it was in a spawn location. So when we got to the island, I knew that stakes were high and we had to sell fast. If one of them killed us, they could easily just sell all the loot at the Sovereign as it's right there, so we started selling as fast as we could. But when I told my teammate that we had another ship behind us, basically hot micing to all hell, you know, just saying, oh no, we better sell all this Athena's fortune loot. It'd be quite unfortunate if somebody stole it from us while we're at Sovereign. Like, just screaming, yo, kill us. You know, like, I was selling the loot, and he's like, oh, I gotta go check. And he goes and runs on the dock, and he's like, they're so close. So I had to kind of try to explain to him, like, yo, there's a hot mic mechanic in this game, like, you know how you can hear other players when they're close to you? Yeah, they can hear you too. Which only ended up making him like freak out more, of course, you know? This made it even worse. I was really astonished that we were able to sell our loot without them pulling up. Like, I would have pulled up on us right away. But when I decided to go out and go check on the other ship...
Be very quiet! He can't see us if we don't move!
Dude, these barrels on this island are weird. You can't even loot them, man. Like, I realized that we had basically panicked for no reason. Now that we knew the coast was clear, we were ready to go on to day 5, to which my teammate would end up leaving about 10 minutes in, so I just looted a shipwreck, went back to Sovereign, and sold. I'd lower our emissary flag, bringing us up to 110,000 gold. Not bad for ending off our first session and our first 5 days of a game. Now moving on to day 6, I queued up for an open cruise session, and sure enough, got nobody. I mean, that's fine though, as I decided to start an Athena's fortune run again, grabbing an emissary flag along with supplies in hopes that someone else would join me as I did a Voyage of Legends. A Voyage of Legends gives you 3 basic quests, like one is a treasure map, one is for us to go kill some skeleton captains, and another one is kind of like a treasure map, but you have to solve a puzzle to get the treasure. I normally wait until rank 5 emissary to do this voyage, as you can stack it with your grade 5 emissary quests, and then that sometimes gives you a chance to get the same quest for the same island twice, but this time I just wanted to start out with it. Day 6 and half of day 7 were pretty chill. I marked down the islands I needed to visit and spent about a half hour collecting loot from each one. At first, it wasn't too difficult, but when I'd least expected, it was not a Reaper ship, but it was a Merchant Alliance ship actually pulling up on me. This came out of nowhere, and at this point, I was still not the best at PvP, failing to launch myself from the cannons onto his boat. I took my mermaid to go back to my boat, and we would end up ramming right into each other, so I decided I'd try to jump onto his boat boat, but this did not work. I'd slide right off the side of a boat. Meanwhile, my sloop's sailing straight ahead, going away from me, flooding up with water. I couldn't catch up to it. I got no mermaid. It ended up sinking. I was like, damn, you know, this really sucks. But the Merchant Alliance sloop wasn't looking too hot either. In fact, it was looking really hot because I set it on fire. So I decided instead of quitting and leaving, of course, I would focus on killing my opponent and making sure that his boat would sink as well. Sure, it means that neither of us get loot, but there wasn't much there, and this was more of a happy ending for myself. With that, I ended off day 7 with both of us sinking with our ships, and I was ready to start day 8 in a new lobby. I decided to queue a brig lobby with one of my captain's ships, which puts us up with up to 2 other crewmates. Of course, I started a lobby and both players instantly left, which made me realize I had no cosmetics saved onto my ship. Like, players are very picky when it comes to playing open crew. I don't know how or why. I've once had the same guy join and leave my crew like 3 different times within an hour, that being my only teammate, leaving right away, but then by the 3rd time, he stuck around until I sold, you know? The matchmaking for this game is insane. It's got no filters, no fucks to give, so I literally need to use swag to make sure that people want to hang out with me. Making sure that my pirate looks cool, and then making sure that my ship looks cool. I then re-queued and met Pirate Boy. Me and him would be the duo mainly running this sloop, as the game gave us the same guy who left my last lobby. Like, what the fuck? I wanted to try and hit some more Athena levels, so we raised the flag and set sail on an adventure. Instead of doing a quest, we saw a world event which was going on, which is that giant red skull in the sky. That means that a skeleton fort is active, and there'll be good loot there, so we wanted to go over to it. It would take us a while to sail there, but by day 9 we were arriving at the skeleton fort and ready to start the battle. Now, these forts have about a dozen waves of skeletons to fight, but on top of that, there's a stupid strong boss at the end. It does make doing these really difficult, especially if you're doing it alone, but for any players that are trying to play the game, this is where you can find some of the best loot and do it as fast as possible. So when these pop up, it's a top priority for many players to try to do these or even steal them. And sure enough, as we were trying to clear the fort, a sloop decided to pull up and try to cause us trouble. At first, it wasn't too rough, you know, we were able to get through most of the skeletons at this point, so we were almost ready to leave. That sloop hit us a few times, but nothing much. It wasn't until another brig had showed up where stuff hit the fan. We were unable to grab the loot from the vault, and on top of that, as we were trying to get our bearings, the brig sent me to the Ferry of the Damned as I was attempting to repair the boat, which led to us sinking and losing another run. So given a positive mindset, I hopped into my next lobby starting off day 10, which was with a newer player. We were going to be rocking a sloop, so I opted for doing a Gold Hoarders run. Now, up to this point, Gold Hoarders has been one of my favorite emissaries to play for. My pirate has already reached plus level 100 in the emissary, and I knew plenty of things that we could do as Gold Hoarders. To start, we began with heading to a sea fort. This way we could grab supplies for the rest of our journey and also get up a few levels of the emissary. It didn't take long for us to defeat the boss, unlock the vault, and harpoon all the loot back to our ship. And by the time we were done at the fort, well, it was really just me and my teammate left halfway through, but after that, I got a new teammate who was ready to do the treasure vault with me. Now, these are great for giving players lots of rewards for completion. There's 2 different types, one that has 3 map pieces, but I usually opt for doing the more difficult one, which has 6 map pieces, as not only do I have it unlocked and it's just a lot better to do, but if we do it, we can actually end up getting the X on the map on the very first piece. If we do that, then we'll be able to figure out the island right away that we'll need to go to, and then get the vault key to move on. But unfortunately, we didn't get the X from the first piece of the map, or the second piece, or the third, or the fourth. Of course, you know, finally, we had the map ready, and we could go retrieve the key for the vault, but not before being ambushed by a skeleton ship. Now, luckily, it was only a single skeleton sloop, so we were easily able to blast it up and collect some extra loot before arriving at our island by day 11. We looked around for the spot to dig at, and then would retrieve an ancient chest, which had a key to the vault in it. Luckily, the key ended up being for the same island which we were at already, so I decided to move my boat, but my teammate would leave the game during this moment. Who the fuck leaves before a treasure vault? What the hell? You know, normally when I do these, I'll have my teammate, they'll stay on the bottom floor, they'll try to grab everything and place it outside of a door, and then I'll climb the ladders to go get all the loot above and drop it down. But, you know, this time my teammate had once again left, and the game's not gonna give me anyone until I go to sell, so we only have about 2 minutes in total total to loot this place by ourselves. This means, of course, the gold piles are absolutely last. We're mainly aiming to grab all the chests and collect 3 medallions, which we'll use to help figure out the puzzle at the end, which unlocks a really nice chest of ancient tribute. This one is worth like 10 times more than your average captain's chest. Now, I actually did really well on this vault for doing it all on my own. I was able to grab every piece of loot and place it outside of a vault door, and by the time it closed and flooded, I stayed inside for a free quick respawn and to grab some extra piles of gold. Now, coming up was the fun part, spending the next 10 or 15 minutes moving all the loot from the vault to a spot where I could harpoon it all from. Once getting it all onto my ship, I was at rank 5 emissary and finally got a 3rd teammate. Right away, I went to explain to him, oh hey man, yeah, I just did a treasure vault, I'm rank 5, but to sell, and he left right away, like crazy, man. I don't know why so many players just randomly hop lobbies in this game, but you'll be fucked to even find somebody selling at Sovereign. They'll see you selling loot right there and they'll be like, oh no, I don't want none of that, I'm getting out of here. Because what the fuck do you gotta do? Who do you gotta blow to get a fucking crewmate in this game, you know? It's brutal, dude. So as a solo, I pulled up my ship to the outpost to sell, and with a treasure vault plus a sea fort at the start, I was able to make about 110,000 more gold for myself. And seeing as I had no teammate with me and nothing else to lose, I decided to just end the session off. You know, normally I'd grab my grade 5 quest and keep going, but I was tired and ready to hit it again the next day in real life. For day 12, I wanted to switch things up a bit, so I went for a random Galleon lobby. Instantly, I met some teammates, so after about 10 minutes of introductions and picking out weapon skins and just messing about, we finally all decided to do some Order of Souls. I really wanted to reach level 100, as I said, and I'm pretty close to doing so at this point. So after raising an emissary flag and starting a quest to go take down a skeleton fort, we would get to the island when one of my teammates silently left, and in his place was a new player who was very good at the game. They told me that they were almost at 12 million gold again, and I was like, damn. After 200 hours of gameplay time, I've only made 10 million gold. Keep in mind as well, about like 99% of it right now has been spent. So playing with an experienced player, of course, made the fort a lot easier, as we worked together to kill the boss faster than I had ever seen. Going into day 13, we decided to hit up a quick Phantom Fortress, as it'd likely be enough to boost us from level 4 to level 5 emissary, and sure enough, we were able to complete it in about 10 minutes, harpooning all of the loot on board, and then arriving at Galleon Grave Outpost near the start of day 14, we were able to sell all the skulls and treasure that we had found, which brought me up past 300,000 total gold. This also would mark when I reached level 90 in Order of Souls, meaning I was only 10 levels away. I then grabbed our rank 5 emissary quest, but our cool crewmate had to hop off, so I added him in hopes we'd team up again sometime on the seas, and then immediately he was replaced by someone trying to troll us. This guy firebombed the ship immediately, and then he accused the kid of doing it, so the kid left right away. This then brought us down to 2 crewmates, you know, me, one guy trying to play, and then this guy. We literally had to lock him in the brig, as he was just causing mayhem. He started trying to troll us on the anchor, and I wasn't having none of it, man. As he was locked in the brig, I decided then it was just best to get the ship back to Outpost. If we don't sink at this point, we'll be really lucky. So we made it back and sold what we had, and then ended off the session by lowering the flag. I just do want to note, only afterwards did the butthead that we had to put in a brig leave. You know, he waited for us to sell, just peak open crew lobby experience, you know? This led into day 15 and 16, which both just really sucked. I mean, I started a sloop lobby to which me and my teammate did 2 hourglass PvP matches and got absolutely smacked in both of them. I don't even want to talk about it, man. It was just so bad, okay? We lost 2 games, that's it. Some lobbies just aren't meant to be, and at this point, PvP lobbies definitely in that category for me. Day 17 would then start, and I decided as the game gave me and my sloop no other crewmate, I would just start doing an Athena's Fortune run and start with a Legend of a Veil. I started out with a shipwreck from which I found a captain's key for to find the first piece of a veil. By the time I had finished the first part of a veil, the game had finally given me a new teammate, so I explained to him how I'd basically just started this and I just finished the first part, so he agreed to begin the quest and start sailing to the next island with me. It was now day 18, and not only did we spend most of our time looking for loot, but my teammate was also not very good at the game, as the moment some other pirates pulled up on us while we were on the island, he let me know that pirates were on the ship and then just started freaking out. Worst part is he started whining, asking them to stop, you know, he offered all of our loot while whining and asked them to let us go, which of course they didn't. They killed him. I was like, no, man, no, don't do that. Ugh, cringe, you know, let's go make a last stand, you know? What kind of pirate whines and gives up treasure? But as I got back onto the boat and started repairing, I got snuck up on and insta-killed. This happened twice now in this video alone. Like, I really gotta stop getting caught like that. Day 19 would begin, and this time I was going for another brigantine lobby in hopes of lucking out and at least finding one competent teammate, and luckily I did. He had a mic, but game chat was messing up, so we used Discord to run the lobby together. We had another person join us as well, so we were able to start running a good session. He had only made around 490,000 gold up to this point, but he was ready to listen and learn, which already put the new guy in the upper ranks of Sea of Thieves players. If you can listen in Sea of Thieves, you're a top 10% player, dude. Yeah, I give you a lot of credit. It took most of day 19 to get things ready until we would leave on a Legend of a Veil run, but it was full of fun introductions and grabbing supplies from the island, so I can't really complain. It was still a good day. By the time we got to the first island, it was now day 20 and we were fighting the Phantoms. The steps in this quest only change very slightly or mix in order, so unless something super big or new comes up, you know how it goes. We finished defeating the Phantoms, retrieve our first Veil Stone, and then go on to the next step, which was exploring a sunken ship for the second piece of a Veil. Along the way, by day 21, we'd stop at a Phantom fortress to load up on supplies and grab some extra loot to sell after, which would go pretty well. We'd finish a fortress in under 10 minutes, and shortly after would sail over to the Storm, where we destroyed the first 3 forts. After those ones were done, we completely ignored the ships and absolutely wrecked the final big fortress. Now, there were some close calls, but we had a crew that were working together, able to manage bucketing water out of a ship and other complex game mechanics, such as throwing wood on holes that are leaking water into the ship. All while we could still shuffle somebody steering, somebody getting sails, somebody doing cannons. It was true harmony. I remember it felt great in this one to grab all the loot, and then halfway into day 22, we were able to bring it all back to an outpost to sell. This made us all a nice 135,000 gold each, and this brought me closer to 500,000 total gold. By day 23, I grabbed our rank 5 emissary quests, and we were heading to go do them. My original 2 teammates had to get off the game, so I continued the adventure with some randoms. Nothing too interesting happened here. It was a chill session as we went to each island, gathering loot to bring back at the end. We'd also hit a couple sunken ships along the way, along with fighting any Ashen captains or skeleton captains we found on the islands. By the time I sold, I made enough money to bring me up past 580,000 now, ending off day 25 as a pretty strong session. I mean, any session where you don't sink is good, but being able to hit level 5 emissary quests, sell everything, and lower flag is amazing. For day 26, I went into a sloop lobby and found one of my best teammates in the game so far. This guy was named Shaggy. Man, shout out to Shaggy. He was pretty good at the game, you know. He was still a really new player, but we went on a Legend of a Veil quest together, which went great. I know, don't blame me for doing so many Legend of a Veils yet, okay? I swear, I switch it up soon. Just, you gotta understand, okay? Athena's Fortune, you gotta grind up to Pirate Legend to unlock, and then you gotta grind it more to unlock more raids. Up until this point, I was under level 10, so I didn't even have a fucking sea fort with phantoms in it to fight under Athena's Fortune. The only thing I could really do was the Voyage Legend. I could do the Skull of Destiny, which unlocks the Fort of a Dam, but that doesn't really get us Athena. Or I could do Legend of a Veil. Well, those are like my 3 options, you know. I'm kind of screwed other than that. So you want to blame anyone? Blame the devs, you know, tell them to add more Athena's Fortune shit, so next time Croc's making a video, it's not so drained out with a fucking Legend of Veil. Trust man, by the end of this, I fucking hate Legend of Veil. That's the worst thing I've ever done. Moving on though, we completed the shipwreck and then went on to a sea fortress for some extra materials and extra loot. After finishing that, it was day 27, and I had realized that the game had sent us on the most insane journey to get to step 2 for the Legend of a Veil. This absolutely stunned me. Of course, we gotta go south, far, through storm, almost against wind. Oh geez, man, we gotta go. No way, we gotta. Holy shit, they sent us on a fucking. Oh my god. That's fucked. I've never had a Legend of a Veil like that. What kind of fucking Legend of a Veil spawns you a Trader's Fort Fortress and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 fucking aquatic miles down south. I guess we got some more bonding time. Like, look at it that way. That's brutal. I've never had it that bad. There's no way. Am I reading this right? Let me read it one more time. Just make sure. Yep, the devil's thirst. Holy shit. This journey took us about half a fucking hour. So, like, the rest of day 27 and all of day 28 were just spent sailing and being baffled by fucking how far this was. I was really in disbelief, you know, like by day 28, hello day 29, we would finally arrive at the island, and I started looking for suds, and at this point I was kind of pissed. Like, the island we went to is in Devil's Roar area, Devil's Roar. I think that says enough. The dude moved all the way from somewhere that's nice and green and blue, has islands that are called shit like Smiley Fry Island, but he moved all the way to Devil's Roar, to this area which is full of evil enemies. It's got a volcano which erupts like every 10 minutes, as well as earthquakes every 10 minutes. Like, why the fuck is this old dude suds coming all the way out here? I was perplexed. It also takes me a while to find him once I reach the island, but sure enough, he's just hanging out there, you know? Gives us a clue for us to go find the next piece of a veil. Now, luckily, the chest was at the next island right over from us, or else I swear I would have strangled that mofo myself. Like, I was so upset at this point. Like, we had come so far out. If he would have gave us an island from back where we started, ooh, could you imagine? You know? But we got the second veil piece and could finally continue on our journey. We'd spend the rest of day 29 fighting the skeleton sloop and sailing to our destination, and by the end of day 29, we finally arrived at the veil. We did pretty good here, like we were able to take down all 3 smaller fortresses right away, and as we reached day 30, we'd be taking down the big fortress. After completion, we grabbed the loot and finally went to the outpost. After spending about 5 days at sea together, we had not only made a new friend, but even better than that, made about 150,000 gold, bringing me up to past 750k. I showed him a pirate legend spot downstairs in the bar so he could check out the cosmetics, and then we said our goodbyes and went on to the next game. Now, this was a Galleon lobby, but I only got matched with a random child who had just recently started playing the game. He had also, like, likely had just recently spawned into real life, you know, like, this is brutal, dude. We started out by getting a storage crate, and now that I had reached level 10 in Athena's Fortune Emissary, I could finally queue myself for an Athena fort. I could do these with any of the other guilds already, but I need to level up Athena's run before I could do anything under that guild, so now that I had it, I wanted to do it as, yeah, the fucking Legend of a Veil I'm so sick of, man. And while the Voyage of Legends isn't too bad, I usually like to hit it at level 5, so this would be a nice change of pace, even though it was the same old Phantom Fortress I'd probably clear 100 times by now. But once I cleared the fort, I found that the loot was honestly pretty underwhelming. Only a few crates and a few things, but it just seemed a lot less than, say, a Gold Hoarders or even a Merchant Alliance sea fort. Now that we got the new content out of the way, yeah, I can't believe that's the new content, you know? It was finally time to go on to another Veil of Legends, hoping to get to level 5. On day 31, we reached the first island and had a full party again. We got the treasure from the first island and then came across a crew doing a sunken treasury, which means they went underwater and left their boat alone, so you know what we had to do. Yeah, I know. Why'd you have to sink them at the sunken treasury? Well, there's other things they could have done. As you'll see later in this video, sometimes you're definitely gonna want to watch your ship while you do these. By the time we had sunk their ship, we figured nobody would be returned to the surface from the bottom. I mean, they'd most likely just return the ship from the mermaid. So while they might have loot, nobody really wanted to stick around, so we just left, went to a nearby outpost, and we really needed to get there because we had one of these Skulls of a Siren song on our ship. Now, you normally have to sell this to Captain Brigsby, and he doesn't really spawn on an island that an outpost is at, so I offered to search it up and try to figure it out, but my team didn't want no part of it, so I just decided to leave the skull at an outpost. Maybe somebody else will hop onto the game, find it, and then have a nice treat to start their session off with. In the middle of day 32, we pulled up at another island and found a ship. Now, no player was spotted, but we were able to sink the boat faster than I've seen any boat sink. I'm standing down here guarding the holes. He's not on. Oh, you got it, man. You got it. It's sunk. It's sunk. Just like that. Fastest sunk I've ever seen. Leading into day 33, the child on our boat wanted to become captain, so I gave them the captain's send-off tradition, and followed by him asking me to do the same. You want the captain? You want to become captain? I'll show you what you gotta do. You gotta get in the cannon. You gotta get in that cannon. It's how you become captain. You get the achievement for it after. You can become captain. Do you want to become captain or not? Aye, aye, captain. Do you feel like a captain now? I ain't gonna fall for that old get in the cannon and you'll become the captain trick. I just done that to you 2 minutes ago. Now my game audio recorded, but team chat didn't for some reason. I don't even know how the fuck this happens. I guess the game and the game's crew chat audio run on separate audio files on PC, so whatever, dude. Okay, thanks Microsoft. But this kid was squealing and living in his own world, so maybe that's for your best. This session was pretty brutal to deal with. I mean, I really tried to stick it out the best I could, but we decided to end off a session on day 34, bringing all of our loot to Reaper's hideout and grabbing a level 1 or emissary flag, as we didn't even have a flag yet. With that, it brought us to now over 860,000 gold, and now ready to jump into the next game. On day 35, I teamed up with Shaggy again, this time with a new goal in mind. Until this point, Shaggy had never done a Legend of Sunken Temple special voyage. This special voyage doesn't only get you a little bit of loot, but it also unlocks a unique curse for your character. And since I already had some players help me through it, I now wanted to help someone else through it. First, we wanted to get our emissary rank up to near rank 5, so we started with just doing a basic shrine. Now day 36 would see with us sailing there, and this was one of the first times I have had such a rough time doing a puzzle in this game. I had no clue what to do, bro. Like, I just started lighting stuff on fire, I was stepping on random stuff, just flipping switches, all in hopes we'd figure it out. I mean, we did. We would not really, but we did solve it, you know, in time. It wasn't until I did the shrine again where I figured out how the puzzles work and I was actually able to complete it in under a half hour, but this one took forever, it felt like. But hey, if we could figure it out at 2 a.m., I'm sure anyone can, you know? We finished this on day 37 and moved into doing some islands in search of skeleton captains to kill. I was already at level 95 Order of Souls, gaining 5 levels just from the loot we've been selling since our last emissary run, so we kept doing this all throughout day 38, gathering a few skulls and other bits of treasure along the way. On day 39, we took down one more group of skeleton captains before returning to the outpost and cashing in, which only made us about 60k and didn't quite get me to level 100 in Order of Souls yet. We were ready to do the Sunken Temple though, so we just decided to end up lowering this flag and raising a Gold Hoarder's flag as I searched it up, and that one would be a lot better. Either way though, we'd probably hit rank 5 by the end of it. Now, honestly, thinking back to playing, you don't need to grab any supplies for doing these temples. You don't bring a storage crate down, like, you don't bring anything down other than 5 pieces of food and whatever you find in there. So other than having really good food to have a passive healing bonus, it was pretty pointless, as the shrines would be filled with puzzles and very few enemies. Still, at least we were on track to now getting Homie his curse. We had a treasure map to check out along the way, so on day 40 we stopped in an island, which led to some basic looting. Nothing too much interesting at this island, honestly pretty disappointed, but after that we went on to the Sunken Kingdom voyage. The voyage gives us a compass which will point us towards each shrine we need to go to. Just the hardest part about this voyage is the fact that each shrine is like 15 to 20 minutes away from each other and you have to do 3 of them. The total sailing time for this is like disgusting. But on day 41 we'd stop at an outpost quick to sell all the loot we had so far, make some quick gold, and then sail to our first shrine. We found a shipwreck along the way as well, which had some extra treasure for us to grab, followed by the shrine itself, and this one was pretty simple. This was just a mermaid puzzle requiring us to position the statues into place and ring a horn. The only part that really sucked about this was we ended up taking all the loot, including the key to the shrine, back to our ship. So when we got back to our ship, I was like, oh shoot man, we still gotta do something. So we had to bring the key back down, swim it down. You know, that would take even longer than swimming down normally. It was just rough. To make me like even more frustrated in the scenario, we got back to the entrance and noticed there's a couple sparkling pieces of treasure in the water. Ooh, just some trinkets to find, eh? So we go swimming over there, you know, behind the entrance, all trying to investigate it. I'm like, yo, hold up, dog. I can't grab this. You know, I grab the skull fine, like no problem. But I can't grab this chest. So I asked my homie if he can come over. Yo, man, come swim over that cave. Come swim over to me. Sure enough, he comes swimming over and he can't fucking grab it either. You know, like, it's not worth a lot of money. It's not worth a lot of gold, but it's worth enough to piss me off. After a few minutes of swimming, we were finally back inside of a puzzle temple and we could unlock the shrine's vault and move on. It took us a full day, but we'd finally reach the next shrine halfway through day 43. Now, both of us here would swim down to do the puzzle. Luckily, there weren't many ships to look out for in this server, so we were pretty much in the clear as long as we didn't spend too long completing puzzles. Day 44 would mostly be spent in this temple as there was a huge parkour thing for us to climb up, which gave me plenty of difficulties. During day 45, we found a key and moved on with our quest. We now had 2 out of 3 keys to open our chest with, and 1 more shrine would mean we'd get the final key to finish up the voyage. When we arrived back to our ship, a skeleton sloop had arrived and actually picked a fight with us, of course. Now luckily, these skeleton sloops, they're pretty easy. Like after 10 clean cannon shots, they'll go down no problem. Once the skeleton ship sunk, we would stop our ship, that way we could grab all of the loot that rose to the ocean's surface. But on top of that, right as day 46 started, we had a megalodon show up. Now the mega isn't too bad. It's annoying, but a lot of players I've played with panic and they think it's all over when one of these show up. But, you know, not me. I start shooting it. I start blasting it. We start shooting it with cannons. We start sniping it, doing anything we can to beat it up. And really, making it seem easy enough, the Megalodon turned upside down and popped open a bunch of wonderful treasure for us to collect. At this point, we had collected a lot of loot, almost 2 hours worth, and neither of us wanted to lose this. So we decided to stop by a nearby outpost, but once getting closer, we could see another ship heading to the Sovereign to sell. Now, I figured this must have been a new player. I couldn't see many cosmetics, and as I shot from a cannon to go check out if the coast was clear or if it was safe, they decided to sail away, obviously scared of any type of fight or conflict. I don't think they even sold their loot yet, unless they sold the most expensive chest and kept the rest or didn't have much. It just didn't make sense for them to do this. I mean, I was just gonna honestly ask if we could alliance up, as then both groups would be able to sell and then benefit from each other, but no, they just sailed away. So me and my teammate pull up to the Sovereign, and we began selling all of this loot that we had got. We had so much loot, so much that we're talking for like a whole minute, almost a minute and a half, about how like crazy that was with the ship being there and how they should have fought us, how we have all this good loot. And that's when out of nowhere someone attacked me. Now luckily my teammate was able to one blunder him, and I recalled selling one of the more expensive chests right away when we got there, so any loot that he might have been able to grab wouldn't have been that expensive. But it's a good example of what a heart attack for a player in Sea of Thieves will look like. That's how you scare the fuck out of someone, man. I jumped in my chair when that happened. We lucked out though, and Shaggy held it down, so by day 47 we were back in our adventure, heading to the very last shrine. Now this temple was similar to the very first shrine we did in our adventure, might have actually been the same fucking one. So at this point, we at least knew how to do the puzzle. We secured a bunch of loot, and I brought Homie over to the lore book as we retrieved the final key we needed to unlock the coral chest. On day 49, we used the mermaid statue to return to the ship, then we collected our loot, and Shaggy finally had his curse from completing the voyage. Now I felt really accomplished by this, because while getting the curse myself a week prior was an achievement, it felt so much more rewarding to do this with a newer player. And on top of that, this guy was actually chill, he was fun to play with, and we were able to pull off an amazing 5-hour session together. I'm sure some of you understand, but there's something more rewarding about helping others than there is yourself. I mean, it's not like I wasn't making gold or anything. Of course, if I wasn't making gold, I wouldn't have done this shit with him. But we were making gold, so then we were going to go head to an outpost next, but instead of going northwest as we needed to, we ended up going northeast, which was actually the direction of an active skeleton fort. On top of that, there was another ship there, so now, at first, I thought it'd be an outpost he was selling at. Remember, me and Shaggy had been selling for a good like 15 days up to this point. I think I also had my settings lowered, so we were both really tired, ready to cash out. We didn't care if we even lost the last bit of this loot to a fight. But when pulling up, I realized it was an outpost. This is a skeleton fort. And this isn't even like a decked out ship, this is definitely a noob. You can tell right away when instead of fleeing or trying to fight, he swam the Reaper's chest over to us to start a peace offering. Oh, he jumped with it into the water. You see that? Look, you can tell he's in the water because it's moving. I hit him once. Ahoy there, matey. What's poppin', boys? What are we doing today? Is that the peace offering? I appreciate it, man. Nah, that's really chill. What, are you soloing today? He wanted to give us a fucking peace offering. Ain't that crazy? I mean, I'm pretty sure I actually played with this player a few days previous on Open Crew, so they most likely weren't that good if I didn't add them. I tried to talk to him some more, but knowing that I already hit him with a sniper, and he was probably just one hit and full of loot, You know what I had to do. Now, some would say, oh, this is new bullying, that's toxic, but no, he had loot, bro. He had loot. The Reaper's chest he tried to give us? We didn't fucking want that. Like, we weren't gonna go to Reaper's hideout. That was so far off, and for one chest, that'd be insane. And we were really only focused on his loot, which he had a fair amount of. He wanted to give us the Reaper chest so that we'd leave him alone with the rest of the loot that was on the nose of his boat. Like, come on, dog. Like, pirate game. Caught him with his fucking pants down, man. Feels good, dude. He'll sink a motherfucker sometime soon, and he'll be laughing it up and probably being called words and stuff. With a bunch of loot on board, some stolen and some earned, we had ended off this session as an amazing run. In 200 hours, easily one of my favorite ones to date. From that run, we had both made a lot of gold, so it brought me up past 1.2 million, and in total earned us over 300,000 each. Just insane. Yeah, it was 5 hours, but he also got a curse and we sunk somebody at the end, so really couldn't have gone better. Now, at the end of the session, we gathered all of our supplies, along with a Reaper's chest that we had found from that kind fisherman, and decided to leave it on the island for the next player to find. We would now go on to game day number 50. I started a Legend of a Veil, but noticed quickly that a skeleton fort was active off in the distance. It wasn't too far away from us either, so once we got our first Veil Stone from the shipwreck, we went on to check in the skeleton fortress. I wanted to make sure that it didn't have any players at it, and in our favor, it didn't. Therefore, I'd spend the rest of day 50 clearing out the fortress, but on day 51 we had a huge load of loot to bring onto our ship. This not only included all of the treasure from the vault, but also an ashen wind skull, which drops from a fire skeleton boss we killed. This skull sells for a lot of gold, and it can also be used to shoot flames at enemies to set them on fire or damage them. It's pretty OP if you use it right, so I decided to set it in a spot where I'd remember just in case I wanted to use it. On day 52 we now had rank 4 emissary, which isn't what I normally like to sell, but my teammate insisted that we drop off his loot and then go to Reaper's hideout to sell the one Reaper's chest we got. So I agreed, we made a bit of gold, and after that I had completely forgotten about doing any more Athena stuff, and I was ready to hop off for a bit, which leads us into the next lobby. Starting off day 53, I hopped into a sloop lobby and now had my Order of Souls at level 99. I needed one more level in order for us to reach level 100, so I convinced my newbie teammate to go run some Order of Souls with me. He said he was down, so I set us up on a quest to go take out a skeleton fortress, which had us spending most of the day looting it for supplies, along with clearing waves of skeletons to eventually kill the boss and unlock the vault. Now, normally when we do these, the loot is a lot better, like the last one we did, but this one we queued up for as a voyage, which usually gives us a little bit worse loot. I mean, it's a bit better than some of the other things we can do in-game, and it still gets us level 4 emissary, but it takes up quite a bit of time, as by day 54, we were still putting all the loot onto our ship and trying to head out. This time, I wanted to reach rank 5 in our emissary before we sold, so we sailed over to a nearby phantom fortress. This would only take us a little bit to clear, and we were able to clear the phantoms and a captain by day 55. This led into us going to an outpost to sell, and we then lowered our emissary flag, and I got all the way up to level 100. Now, hitting level 100 in Order of Souls is pretty cool. I get some extra unlockables, things I can buy. It resets my level back to level 1, but also gives me a distinction 1, so I'm basically level 101 now. It's kind of like a Call of Duty prestige, just something to flex, but I can still do all the max level content that I've unlocked. But with that goal out of the way, I don't know when the next time I'll be running Order of Souls emissary is. There's just not a lot of ways to make good money with it. On day 56, we were now in a new lobby, and I wanted to start a gold hoarders run. I was using my brigantine this time, as I wanted to get some more random players to play with, but of course, I only got one person, and it was a new player. Now, that normally isn't enough to make me reset the lobby, you know, I wanted to steer it in the right direction. Maybe I could start off well with this guy, so we went to a sea fortress first, bringing our emissary level up to level 3, as well as giving us some supplies to start the run off with. This brought us to day 57, which really sucked. I played until the end of this day where we were fighting the final boss on a skeleton fortress, but unfortunately my game would crash. I remember trying to turn it back on, but it just wouldn't reboot on. I had to re-verify my files, but by the time I got back on, poof, it's done. Ending that session, I made no gold, and I was pretty cheesed, man. The game's on season 12. Why the hell is this shit happening, you know? Day 58 was another awful time, you know? I joined our buddy Firelord as I was gonna help him do some Merchant Alliance stuff, and I still gotta get my Merchant Merchant Alliance to level 100, so I was fine with it. I bought us some supplies because apparently he didn't have any gold, and since we were going to sail a couple miles to our mission starting destination, I figured I'd buy some stuff as well we could sell at the next outpost and make even more Merchant Alliance rep. Now, unfortunately, I asked him, I was like, we gonna sail there or dive? And we're gonna sail there, so I got all the stuff, we loaded on the ship. This takes like an extra few minutes, but we get it all ready. And it was for nothing, because he decided to dive, so when we dive, we keep all of our normal storage crates, but we lose all of our extra stuff. This would then also lead into like the worst Merchant Alliance voyage I've ever ran. I've done these ones before, where you gotta find the ship and you find different clues, but this was taking forever. He insisted that our objective was in the direction that was away from the objective, so we didn't find our first clue until the next day, and finally would end up finishing the voyage at the end of day 50. Now on day 60, when we arrived at the outpost, he ended up leaving the game, probably due to a crash, and it was right before we were about to sell, so I tried to wait up a Sovereign for a few minutes. You know, I'm sending him messages, trying to invite him to a party, I'm looking around on my spyglass, and sure enough, another ship decides to pull up to the island. Now at this point, I had two decisions. One, try to fight this ship and buy time, or two, just sell. And I decided, you know, I'm just gonna sell. If he was doing it solo, he would have already been screwed, you know, he would have already lost the loot. So I had this chance to sell before this guy arrives and one blunders me. I'm gonna take it. This would make us a little over 60,000 gold before I ran over to see what was going on. And of course, I just find a noob in rugs. Now I tried to talk to them, I was following them around, but they were completely ignoring me. On top of that, once my teammate came back, he was pretty pissed because I had just sold all the loot without him. I didn't know if he was getting back on. He didn't answer any of the messages, so we had decided just to sink him. I'm sorry, new player. This was probably the most toxic thing I've done in a game, but I gotta tell you, you know, having no mic in this game, not typing, not emoting, a mute pirate just might as well be a dead pirate. That's all I'm gonna say there. On day 61, we sailed to the next island, or I sailed to the next island, as he AFK'd the entire time. By the time I sold all the loot, the game had already kicked him out, and I was about ready to move on to the next lobby. What a nasty Merchant Alliance run. Like, it's pretty rough. It's not my favorite thing to do in a game, but I swear, it's not that bad. Don't take that as your Merchant Alliance introduction if that's the first time you've seen one of those missions. Now for day 62, I queued up into a Galleon lobby, to which of course the game gave me one player to play with. Now he was down to pretty much rip anything in the game, so we went for Athena's Fortune Emissary and started a Legend of a Veil. Now this right here, this was one of the worst Legend of a Veils I've done up to this point. Like, I wanted to lose my mind after this. We got to the shipwrecks, and first we had to look for the captain's key to unlock the captain's quarters in one of the ships. Now the captain's key normally spawns in one of the 5 or 6 ships that surround the area, so we start looking through each one. Now luckily there's air bubbles near the grades, ever some treasure in between, and usually this takes about like 5 minutes, you know, but 1 minute turns into 10, and sure enough, we end up spending 20 minutes, a full game day there. It was leading up to 30 minutes. I had that fucklord dude join again, and he gave up after the first 15 minutes of looking down there. He went up onto the Galleon, complaining about how it was taking so long and how boring it was. Meanwhile, I'm moving pillows and other objects that he missed in the boat. I was losing my mind doing this, man. So I finally find the key, you know, it's hiding behind a painting. Takes like 33 minutes to find. It's almost the end of day 63 at this point. Like, I was cheesed. It took us all that time just to do the first step. On top of that, my random teammate left, so all I had was this fucklord guy and his whining to help me out, which proved itself on day 64. We did the second step for the Legend of a Veil, and a skeleton galleon would emerge. Now, this isn't too bad normally. The game does scale a lot of these events, depending on if you're playing in a sloop or a galleon, but at this point, I'm playing in a galleon, and I also have one teammate who's completely checked out. He's been AFKing for the whole session because he just doesn't want to move his sails. He hates the Galleon. So I was hoping, you know, now that we had a skeleton ship next to us, sure enough, he's gonna hop on cannons, start to blast them. Maybe use some scatter shots while we're in close range so that we can sink them really fast. You know, what a gamer would do. So I hop on the cannons, I hit him with 10 nice cannon shots, and then I go to grab more, and I realize, why do we have 4 cannons on each side of the boat? I'm the only one steering, I'm the only one controlling the sails, lifting the anchor, doing cannons. On top of that, we now had repairs to tend to, and we had to bucket. Like, where the hell was my one other teammate? Well, turns out Fuck Leech decided to jump off a boat and tried to board the skeletons. One of the shittiest moves you can do in the game. Now, he dies on the skeleton ship, goes to the ferry, and is waiting to respawn. I tell him I need help bucketing on the boat, so when he respawns, he jumps off a boat one more time to go for the skeletons. This, of course, leads to water quickly filling up the boat, as we had no one steering and no one on cannons, no one on sails, and all I could really do was try to repair and bucket at this time. And it's not like we didn't have a chance to save it. Like, there's a point where I'm bucketing for almost a full minute as the water's just slowly beating me. But he went AFK again for like a minute or two after he died. So when he came back, the game session was pretty much done. The ship was sunk. He was like, whoa, we sunk? I was like, yeah, man, we fucking sucked, man. It sucked. I had met the dude on open seas, but his gamer skills they were not there yet. So I decided to end the session and try not to let it bug me too much. Of course, that was only after trying to regather the loot, put it into a rowboat, and then a shark made me rage quit. Oh yeah, no, I got this, man. I can do this. There are 2 sharks trying to get me right now. Oh no. Oh my. Okay, GG's. I'm done. I'm out of here for a bit. We're going back to the open seas after that shit. Now going into day 65, I wanted to only have to deal with one person, so I started an open crew sloop lobby. I found a teammate who wanted to run some Reapers emissary, so I was down. Like I said at the start of the video, I hadn't run much Reapers up to this point, so if we could hit rank 5 or sink some other ships and get some nice loot, that would be really nice. We saw that there was a rank 5 Reaper on the server, so we made it our goal to get him. Of course, along the way, we had to fight not only 1, but 2 skeleton sloops on top of a skeleton galleon, which is just insane. Crazy enough though, with just me and this one other teammate, we're able to take down 3 different ships. The teammate I had at least some experience with the game, so this would get us a little bit of loot and bring us up to rank 3 emissary. It wasn't much, but we ended our fight with a skeleton galleon, like right beside Reaper's hideout, so we decided to go sell quickly. Now by day 66, we had made a bit of gold and went back out on our way to go find the Reaper. We had made a plan to go cut them off, but now that we were near Reaper's hideout, the ship decided to go towards the outpost. Now normally as a Reaper, you gotta go sell at Reaper's hideout. Like if you go to an outpost or you try to sell at Sovereign, you'll have to sell it for the normal amount. You're not gonna be able to get your reputation bonus. The rank 5 bonus is basically like selling an item 2.5 times, so it's basically an ultimate scaredy cat move to give that up and try to sell at an outpost just because you don't want to fight. Do I blame them though? No, not at all. Like, they steered towards the Sovereign and made it there just in time. By the time our ship pulled up, they were getting off already. Their ship was scuttling and about to sink, and while we did get their rank 5 Reaper flag because they didn't lower it, there wasn't anything on the ship other than just supplies left. Now on day 67, now that we had a bunch of supplies, we decided to do an hourglass PvP match. This sets us up against one other random ship on the other faction, and after diving and arriving at the battle, we took down this ship pretty easily. I mean, my teammate got on their boat right away, and we were able to basically spawn camp them and shoot them with cannons until their ship flooded and sank. Now since the fight started like right beside a phantom fortress, we had already decided while we were doing the fight that after we finish, we were gonna go clear it out, that way we can grab some guaranteed loot. So after hitting the fortress, we would now be able to reach rank 5 emissary, and we both agreed to go back to Reaper's hideout, try to sell quick, and then look for a world event or other players. It took us about 15 minutes, but by the time day 68 was starting and we were selling our loot to the Reaper, a battle for the Sea of Thieves started. We still had our PvP hourglass on, so I think that's what caused it, and it couldn't have happened at a worse time. Like, we were just able to sell the most expensive chests, and then we had to go hop back onto our ship and get ready for a battle. Not only was this battle taking place around Reaper's hideout, making it very hard to navigate around with all the rocks and lands, but the next 25 minutes were an absolute stalemate. Like between day 68 and 69, we were literally getting fucked. We were taking and sending cannon shots, repairing, bucketing. Honestly, it was a pretty close match, but in the end, they got the upper hand and ended up sinking us. GG's to them, and yeah, they deserve a win. My teammate was calling them a bunch of not advertiser-friendly names after he died, so I left the lobby and went on to the next. Day 70 started, and I went on to starting a Legend of a Veil. This time, I was actually asked by my teammates to run it after they realized I was a pirate legend, so I figured it'd be probably easy enough. We got to the first island, lit up the statues which don't exist, slayed the phantoms and the boss, and then we retrieved the first Veilstone. All pretty straightforward, simple stuff leading us into day 71, where we'd complete the second step by digging up some treasure that was marked by a false symbol. Now that we had 2 out of 3 pieces of a veil, we were ready for the main event. Unfortunately, I was the only one left. The other teammates that wanted to do it had all left by now. And of course, I was able to take down the 3 fortresses, but on the final part of a fortress, this happened. Oh, we got like 4 or 5 holes I just repaired. We're doing all right now that I got this other guy helping. Nice, nice. That's another one down. Gotta go a little bit around, hit this one. Nice, he might have it. Good stuff, bro. I think there's one more just coming around on the other side. I need help down here quick. Oh my god, he died. Oh no. Oh my, man. Oh. Yeah. Bucketing as fast as I can. We might. I'll wait until you revive. We'll see what happens. We might be done here, man. God, dude. GG's. I'm glad I ran in a lobby on Sea of Thieves today for like 5 to 6 players to partake in. Wasn't that a nice time? Fuck me. We had failed another Legend of Avail at the very fucking end, no less. That finished day 71 and brought us into the next game. So when day 72 started, I had a new random teammate on a sloop. We decided to hit a captain's treasury vault in hopes of finding the X on the first try. Of course, we wouldn't, but it led to us going to some different islands and finding bits of treasure as well as some messages in bottles, which give us extra quests. It only took us most of day 73 to go do, but we found the last piece of a map, and on day 74 we went to go dig it up, to which my game then crashed. Luckily, homie stayed in the game, so I was able to restart and join back in, and by then it was now day 75. We'd picked up a few extra quests from those messages in a bottle, so we were killing some skeletons and whatnot as we were going to the main island we had. This would ensure that we get to level 5 emissary, as well as make the most out of our time together until we had the key and were ready to go unlock the vault. We had the simple strategy of I'd be getting the stuff from above, and my teammate would be grabbing the stuff from the bottom. So after a minute or two, we had the puzzle solved for day 76. I would then spend most of it moving all of the treasure outside of a vault. We used a rowboat with a harpoon to grab all the loot as fast as possible, and then we set sail to an outpost, making it all the way to the Sovereigns to sell by day 77. Now, I was at 1.7 million gold, and our crewmate that we had did great in that session, but he was gonna hop off anyways, so I added him and even convinced him to join my guild in-game, so we could use any of our captain's ships to join lobbies. He would then hop off, and after just a minute of time passing, we'd have another teammate, and this guy was pretty good too. I explained to him I had my rank 5 gold hoarder's emissary quest to do, along with trying to hit another treasure vault. He agreed to help me, so we'd spend the rest of the day at an island which had about 6 X's on the map for us to find. After getting all of that done, it gave us quite a bit of treasure, and one of those things was actually a chest of sorrow. This is a nasty chest. You can always hear it crying and weeping, but the biggest part of it that makes it so nasty is that it'll constantly flood your ship. So instead of stacking all the loot, we decided to drop off what we had, and then by day 78 we were back on the move. Now we had found the X for the vault very early on, so we got the key and then went to the vault where again there is a bunch of loot for us to get. At this point we had also obtained 2 messages in a bottle for pretty much the same treasury, along with another shrine which was right next to it, and this would be pretty hot as I did this before on a community day and the rewards were pretty nice from it. Having a double snack quest at a treasury gives you just so much treasure, so we both agreed to sell the loot from a vault, and then on day 79 we would begin sailing to our new destination. We had to travel pretty far, but we had another shrine along the way to check out as well. When we made it to the first shrine, instead of both of us going down, since there are other ships in the area and we had a grade 5 emissary to risk losing, my teammate decided to go down to get the loot. Meanwhile, I stayed on the deck to keep an eye out for any ships that might decide to head in our direction. The coast was clear enough though, everyone seemed to be doing their own thing and staying away from each other, so we were fine. We had so much loot at this point too, like you could only store 20 items in a mermaid statue, and even with having small items in a treasure chest, I had to go collect 20 items from a mermaid so we could put another 5 or 10 of them back in. We had got loaded from this first shrine, and that was all good, but now it was onto the main treasury. As I said, this treasury has 2 quests stacked at it, so we should be getting a lot of loot here. A day later, on day 80, we would arrive, and this time I was gonna help him out, as we didn't think we'd get attacked, and this was also a treasury with waves of enemies. Now, I like to think that I'm really good at these. Like, I don't normally die in them. I find them pretty much just like the Phantom Fortresses, except you get tridents, which make it really easy. Shooting the mermaids, if you charge it up twice, it kills them, and then if you charge it up all the way, it does like an AoE slow attack that kills everything. everything. I really don't mind doing these. It's just really repetitive to do these. You know, it's the same as a Phantom Fortress, except you can't even check on your ship. It's all the way up there. But luckily, it didn't take us too long to complete the treasury, and it'd secure a bunch of loot for us to bring back to the Sovereign. Once grabbing the mermaid, and then getting on a ship, harpooning all the loot on, and then sailing to the Sovereign, we were able to sell it all and bring me up to past 2 million gold. And if there's anything you'd like to take away from this video, it's gonna be this strategy. I made nearly, like, what, 400,000 gold in a little over a week of game time doing a treasure vault or two, followed by hitting some quests from bottles that I picked up along the way. Really isn't a bad way to go or play the game. You might not have the same success that I did, but at least I had some pretty good success here. Now, the next way is not the way to do it. It was now day 81 and Firelord had a lobby going, so I decided to join him and see what mayhem he was up to. Sure enough, he was kind of running Merchant Alliance. I mean, not really, as he went AFK when I showed up. He stuck around long enough to vote on a skeleton fort and then left for the rest of the session, so I ended up just soloing a Merchant Alliance skeleton fort. Probably one of the worst things to do in a game, just so gross. On the bright side though, I was finally able to get a really nice boss kill using kegs. Like, I stacked so many of them up, and this is like the most satisfying thing I've seen in not even a whole 100 days, like in Sea of Thieves, period. Wow. Insta kill, dude. That's nice. That is how you do it, man. Ooh. I'll see if I can give his loot out. If I can, I'll go sell and I'll get out of here. I'm not gonna wait up for him though. Now the challenge is selling the loot before he gets back because he didn't work for any of it. I want him to come back and be like, oh, it's not nice. Without having other people there to just shoot the barrel skeletons or sword dash into barrels, it's really easy to pull this off and it saves a lot of time. By day 81, I got back to the Sovereign and our teammate had got kicked for being AFK, so I just sold and decided to go on to the next match. This brought us into day 82, where I started a brig lobby but only got one teammate. Now he was eager to play, so we decided to do a Burning Blade Armada mission, as it would give us lots of loot. We were doing it under the Gold Hoarder's emissary, so the plan was to make a lot of gold, but sure enough, there'd be difficulties when least expected. Now we're doing great on day 82. Even with him being a newer player, he was able to keep up with instructions and we're clearing out the waves no problem. Now it wouldn't be until day 83 where it got ugly. Once the boss wave of phantom ships had spawned, we were not in a good position. We went right in the middle of all of them, and this is probably one of the worst things you could do, as you can see. I got fire repairs if you can bucket for a minute. Oh no. Alright, you try to get the buckets. I'm gonna... they got us. GG's, damn. I know, man, I can't believe it either, but trust me, when I say this game hits you when you least expect it, it really fucking does. Now, if we got hit all in the same spot, it wouldn't have been too bad, but we got hit from like every spot possible. Our whole ship had leaks in it in no time. And even though we lost, I let my teammate know that I had a fun time playing with him, and he was pretty cool to play with. So GG's to that NPC ship, you know, they got the best of us, but at the same time, they made the best of us, you know? How profound. Day 85 was the start of a new lobby. I raised the Athena's Fortune Emissary flag and set sail to go to a nearby world event. A skeleton fort was active, so that meant there'd be loot to get. We didn't have much supplies though, and I didn't want to buy any, so first we stop at a Phantom Fortress to grab supplies, and then help get us some loot for our emissary grade. We'd leave a Phantom Fortress with loot on day 86, and it didn't seem like much honestly, you know? A few crates and trinkets, honestly. I've seen better loot on a fisherman's boat than that. But on the bright side, while heading to the skeleton fort, I had a random join my crew who was down to do the fort, and just as we were getting into it on day 87, my game crashed. This is brutal, man. I think they dropped a patch, you know, on that day after day 50. It was messing me up, bro. Luckily though, in most cases, I was just able to reload my game and then get back into the lobby as long as my teammate was still in there. At this point, he was now fighting the boss, and this boss that we got at the skeleton island is a little bit harder. Like, you can hurt him with explosive barrels, but I believe he kind of gets damaged in like waves, and he also shoots fire at the same time, so he makes life for you and everybody just hard as possible. So after after a few minutes of shooting and stabbing, we were finally able to take down a skeleton captain and retrieve the Ashen Wind skull. That's that cool skull that sets stuff on fire and is worth a lot of gold. So I put it on a special spot, and then we loaded up everything from the vault onto our ship. Following that, we would set sail east as the nearest outpost was right next to us, allowing us to go into day 88 with us making a nice bit of gold. We had also reached level 5 in Athena's Fortune Emissary, so I grabbed her quest and stacked it with a Voyage of Legends, which gives us 3 very similar quests. Sometimes you can get all 6 of these quests to stack up, but this time we only got 4 of them too, so we completed 4 of the quests, and then at that point I had gotten really tired, so at the end of day 89 we decided to go back to the outpost and sell. My teammate was still gonna play, so I told him he could have my ship and supplies and carry on the adventure. Now it was the next real life day and the final, well, not the final game day, we got 10 game days left, but you know what I'm talking about. For day 90, I wanted to make some big money, so I started up a brig lobby. I then got a couple randoms to start doing an Athena run with. We started by going to a sunken shrine, which wouldn't take too long to get us some treasure to start off with, and by day 91 we were doing a Voyage of Legends. We had 3 quests at random islands with a chance to get a really good chest. Now, day 91 and 92 mostly had us getting standard loot, but on day 93 we really struck gold. Well, not exactly gold, you know, but it was a chest of legends just sitting there in the dirt. Now this was sweet. This is one of the best chests in the game, and normally I find them in like active skeleton fortresses, but rarely do I ever find them when I'm digging stuff up. When we got back to the ship and started heading to the skeleton fort, I was lining up all the loot nice, trying to get some screenshots and waiting for the sun to rise so I can get a better one, but just as I was doing that, we could see another ship. They were already doing the skeleton fortress. Now we could either leave or we could blast them. We were gonna blast them, you know, of course. We wanted to pull up and start shooting them with cannons and finish them quickly, but they dropped their sails right as we would arrive. This, of course, led to us having to chase them. Now, at this point, I told my team, this is gonna be a tough decision, because I checked out their boat, didn't look like they had any loot on it, and on top of that, we could chase them a bit more, but we could also go back to the skeleton fort and just work on clearing that. So after a few moments of chasing them away, we decided to do a hard turn to go around and then go hit the skeleton fortress. We could tell pretty fast that they had turned around and they were ready for a fight this time. So one of our teammates jumped in the boat, another jumped in the tower to use the cannons, and I decided it maybe be best to get an explosive barrel over to their boat. Normally this wouldn't work, you just want to go to the ship and then use the cannons. It's a very hard to pull off move, but I was feeling risky, man. I swear, I had never used this tech. I started doing this tech in game that I had seen in videos but never practiced. I'm pressing X to drop the item, and then I'm pressing F while looking down, and then flicking up quick like it's crazy, bro. Doing all of that to get a half-second sprint boost through the water, and I was just able to make it over to their ship. Hello, my friends. I be on the boat. I go boom. Pulling up right to their ship and unleashing like that felt amazing. I mean, they had no mics, no typing, nothing of that sort, but just knowing that I blew them right up. Meanwhile, they could have done that to us earlier. It felt great. On day 94, we returned to fighting skeletons, but after almost 10 waves, we had a sloop pull up on us. Now, luckily, they weren't that good, so we were able to take this sloop out like it was nothing, but then 10 minutes after we sank the first one, another one had appeared. Now, I don't know if this was the same one or a different one. This time, we would again sink it very fast, but as we did that, that ship's captain had a different plan in mind. Someone's on board. He took the chest of legends, he just hopped out. So not only had he killed me, but he also stole our chest of legends, managed to fuck off with it somewhere in between our ship and the first tower. I looked everywhere on this island, bro, everywhere for it. I was so confused as well, because it looked like we had a chest or treasure map that somebody had obviously put on the island themselves, but I couldn't confirm if it was from the player that we had killed, or that player that had come and stolen the chest, or if it was from our teammate. If it was from the player, maybe we got his map bundle, you know, but if it was from our teammate, I'd just be wasting time. I tried to explain this in chat and I got no answer, so it's just led to a few minutes of me digging to where my teammate just said stop. Maybe he didn't know English too well, but I was really cheesed at this point, bro. Not only did we lose the chest, but no communication led to a waste of time and probably a very easily preventable situation. On top of that, why didn't homie just fucking stash the quest? What do you mean? Stop. Like, don't leave it out there. Come on, man. What do you think stashing is for? And while it does suck, it's not the worst thing in the world. You know, we still pulled off a really good run, not only stealing the fort, but also defending it twice against other players. So at the end of that encounter, when we got to Sovereigns and sold, it made me about 150,000 gold, bringing me up to 2.5 million. Now that would be the end of day 96. It could have gone much worse, you know? While we lost one chest of legends, we kinda got another one from the fortress, plus a chest of fortune, which is worth much more, so I really couldn't complain. On top of that, GG's to Homie for getting the chest out of our ship. Like, that must have been thrilling for him to pull off. I give him full credit for it. But now, this brings us to our last lobby, starting off day 97. I still had yet to do a Fort of the Damned, along with never completing a grade 5 Reapers run with a bunch of loot, so I made it my goal to convince my teammates to go to Reapers. I was on a brig and I only had one teammate so far, so he was more than willing. So while we were running the Reapers emissary flag, we would also be doing an Athena's Fortune Voyage, one of the 3 Fortune Voyages that actually exist in game. Anyways, this voyage is pretty cool. It doesn't take a lot of time. All we gotta do is track down one skull, which will be buried on an island, and this skull can be used to start the Fort of the Damned. Normally at the Fort of the Damned, you'd have to start up all the lanterns, and then put a ritual skull to get it to start, but we can actually use this to start all the lanterns, as well as use it for the ritual skull. Now this voyage is super easy to do, so within a day of game time, we now had 2 skulls, and we're ready to hit it twice. Doing the fort twice should be enough to get us to level 5, and then we'll go to Reaper's hideout to sell. My crewmate had one of his friends get online, so we invited him to the game, and then we were good to go with a full team of 3. Day 98 had us start with activating the fort, so we lit up the 6 colored lanterns along with a skull itself, which is placed on a body. The fort is pretty simple. You know, skeletons of a certain color will appear, and you need to grab the color of light that matches them in order to make them take damage. Similar to the shadow skeletons, just a little bit more picky, so after enough waves of those, we have the boss of a fort spawn. And luring out this boss is pretty easy. Just getting him onto the ramp and then shooting him with cannonballs will be quick enough to kill him. So after doing that, that brings us to day 99, where we did, well, pretty much the exact same thing. In between each wave of skeletons, I'm keeping an eye out for any other ships, but mostly just killing skeletons, trying to kill the boss, and then grabbing all of the loot. Being on Reaper's Emissary, this would earn us a lot more bonus gold than normal, and we were also level 5 by the time we got everything harpooned onto the ship, so we were more than set to sell. As we were getting ready to leave, day 100 started, and a sloop was trying to ruin it all. Sure enough though, I couldn't let him ruin it. We had to destroy him. Nice, nice. They're right beside. Good stuff, man. Let's start loading their boat up with more cannons. Yeah, it took like no time at all, you know, but we did it. After that, we had a bunch of loot to bring to Reapers, so after a short sail to his hideout, we sold and cashed out, making about 280,000 gold in less than 2 hours. On top of that, we lowered the Reaper's flag emissary, and we now had over 2.7 million gold to go spend in the shops. With a few minutes remaining in day 100, that would be all I need to spend all of it, as I headed straight downstairs to see what I could buy. Now, I got some costumes and some of the things down there, but I also got a lot of the stuff from the other stores. Most of it I don't need, you know, it's all cosmetics, but on top of that, I was also able to buy my 3rd sloop and my 2nd brig, which is really nice. So I then pledged them to my in-game guild, and in all, this was an amazing journey. After these 100 days, I really think I went from like a normal pirate legend to a way more knowledgeable one. There's just so many different things you learn about this game, from the tech to different ways to play, from PvE to PvP, but at very least now, I really think that I understand all of the mechanics and different ways to play the game much more than I did before. There isn't much I'd really like to change if I did it again. You know, I'm sure I missed some things and there's still a lot more I could do. I'd love to do this again, maybe doing another 100 days, or maybe hitting all the tall tales, but I feel like I basically did a bit of everything in game. I got the best of every world and the worst of every world, you know, but that's not the point. It's the best of every world point. It's about the best of every world part, you know. That's the one to focus on. Now, I do think Sea of Thieves offers something truly special to anyone who finds interest in it. Yeah, most of the game is just pirate stuff. You're collecting gold and treasure for no purpose other than accommodations or to say that you did it, but that's where the true magic of a gameplay reveals itself once you involve other players, their game knowledge of a game, and all the different ways you can engage in content with or against each other. It really makes pretty much every session unique, you know, from having people yell at you to turn to sales, to completing a vault, then finding a noob who has even more loot for you to steal, you know, all the way to the end there where we grabbed that explosive barrel and just blew up the enemy ships. Sea of Thieves is a truly special game, and I guarantee if you play it for 100 days, while slightly similar, your gameplay is probably going to be a lot different from mine. So if you're looking for a game that's not only good to rip solo, but also good to rip in an open crew just to meet a couple other people, like-minded individuals here and there, and a lot of AFKers and griefers, then go ahead, give it a pass. I mean, not give it a pass, I mean, you know, check out Game Pass. That's not what I wrote down, you know? It's on Game Pass, so if you don't want to buy it, you can use Game Pass to use it, or buy it for like $20 when it's on sale. It's a banger. Now, as I said, I'd love to do this again, or even try to do every tall tale in the game. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Check out my Twitch channel and all the links in the description down below to check out more content of mine, and check out my YouTube channel, you know, for all the videos and different games that I've made videos on. I know you hear it on every video, but leave a like and subscribe and check it out. You know, this is all my life's work out there for free, so if you enjoyed this, then there it is. Either way though, I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.